He starts us this morning. It says, let's make tax payment a habit. President yesterday at the bar conference. Pension fund share of equities market dips and 289,000 jobs created so far by 106 1D1F firms. According to the Trade Ministry, we'll interrogate that. GTA targets 10,000 beneficiaries and the Ghana Care Skills Project. The Chronicle newspaper says, I put it to you, you are flouting tax laws. President Akufo-Addo says lawyers are using their expertise to avoid paying taxes. Over 60,000 of them are here. Court remands Owusu Bempah into police custody to spend 1 week in the cooler, but we're told he's already taken ill. Akufo-Addo, Mahama console Bawumia, the Daily Guide. Owusu Bempah caged over Agrada. Bawumia loses mom and Biposo killer driver is walking free. Pay your taxes, Akufo-Addo tells lawyers. Economy Times. Moody's predicts slower pace of consolidation with a debt burden above 80% of GDP. Energy Ministry look oil lock horns on the GMPC ACA deal. 1D1F, worst economic strategy according to an economist. So 2 songs on 1D1F. The Finder newspaper. Court remands Reverend Owusu Bempah and 4 others. GFA sacks CK Akono and 2 deputies. Shops for new coach. Tributes pour in for Dr. Bawumia's mother and make paying taxes a habit. President Akufo-Addo admonishes Ghanaians. Disallow and surcharge irregular expenses. Occupy Ghana charges the Auditor General. And ADB wins Bank of the Year at the National Business Owners. Daily Graphic. Threat to kill Agrada. Reverend Owusu Bempah, 4 others caged. And that's the photo of the Reverend and the evangelist. Protecting democracy, internal vigilance enhanced, President declares. CK Akono has been sacked, scratching his head on the front page of the Daily Graphic. Student delivers while writing WASI, and businessman in trouble over 1 million Ghana cedi gold scam. The New Crusading Guide, Father Dixon honored, and Reverend Owusu Bempah caged over assault. That's on the front page of the New Crusading Guide. Kwesi Pratt commends Lands Minister for bold initiatives, and Bawumia committed to creating technology entrepreneurs through digitization. Razak Kojo-Poku. Gbechile Chiefs whip as lack of infrastructural development hits them hard. Finally, the Ghanaian Times at the GBA confab in Bolga, 60,000 professionals evade tax. Lawyers, accountants, doctors, politicians are the culprits, according to the president. Minister of Education officials dispatched to inspect Hojo, SHS in the Volta region following Ghanaian Times' publication. GFA sacks Akono 2 deputies. 3-member committee formed, tasked to find replacement within 72 hours. And Owusu Bempah, 4 others remanded in police custody over the death threat and assault. And those are what we found this morning on the front pages of the newspapers. You can always join us with your thoughts and comments as we ventilate the issues here on the New Day show. My name is Johnny Hughes. My guest in studio, Dennis Miracles Abuaji, is a former municipal chief executive of the Kuapem North Municipal Assembly, and also Alhaji Al-Hassan Suhini. He is the Member of Parliament for the Tamale North constituency. And he likes to call himself a former journalist. We say no. He's still a member of the fraternity. After Parliament, journalism still exists. Gentlemen, right. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And a happy birthday to Madame Jemima Amate. It's your birthday today, Mom. Happy, happy, happy birthday with you. Let's talk about football. Did you expect CK Akono sack, Dennis?
Good morning, Johnny, and a very warm good morning to my senior brother Alhaji and our cherished viewers. GFA coaches, Black Stars, is expected. I mean, once the Black Stars starts losing, matches 1, 2, 3, and the public start crying out, the easiest fall is always the coach.
Wow!
And it's not just the GFA. I mean, within the football circles, maybe apart from Arsenal. Apart from Arsenal that have the tenacity to, be able to stand some of these things. Almost all football teams. I mean, Real Madrid, immediately they lose 4 or 5 matches, their coaches are gone. I don't know. Maybe a few teams are able to, keep their coaches for that long. But with the Black Stars and CK Akono, maybe some of our sentiments also have to do with the fact that he's a Ghanaian, coach, a local coach, a former, Black Star footballer, a very accomplished one for that matter, and we have some, affinity with him and all of that. But we should look at the figures and also ask the GFA a few questions. What was the KPIs?
Okay.
What were the key performance indicators that they gave you? I'm sure that when you appoint a coach, you tell him, I want you to achieve the following
by this time.
By this time. So once we don't know these things and we are not privy to them, it will be very difficult to also immediately force the GFA. But if we have to say it from where we sit as fans and supporters, we would say that yes, his performance wasn't the best, but I think we should have given him a little bit more time to adjust. He played 10 matches, he won 4, lost 4, and then drew 2. Very abysmal, especially if you look at the teams that he played against. Sudan, Sao Tome, these are not top-notch, football teams, and so we're expecting more. But the key question is the football in general. As a nation, how are we doing against our competition? Your competition matters. There used to be a time where we had very few top teams in Africa. You mentioned Nigeria, you mentioned Ghana,
Egypt,
you mentioned Egypt, Morocco. They're North African countries. Yes, but now Ethiopia is playing very good football. Yeah. Zambia, Namibia, Equatorial Guinea. Yeah. These are all fearful teams in Africa now. Senegal. Even Libya. Libya is beating Egypt. I think last week they beat Egypt 2-1 or so. So these are teams. These are some of the transitions that have gone on within the national teams, and I think it's because of the quality of players that we are churning out, and it will be very difficult to put the entire blame on the coach at this time. Because Johnny, and Alaji will agree, where are our players playing?
Yeah.
Where are they
globally? Where are they playing?
Even our best
with
players,
teams, yeah.
Our captains are playing in low tier leagues, Qatar, Yemen, Saudi Arabia.
For the money,
and then you have players who are playing in second divisions. Our one of our best left-footed players, Baba Rahman, is playing Reading. Yeah. In the championship in England, and so it all goes down to the quality of players. That is what will lead to the sort of team that you'll be able to build at the national level. Spain, Germany, and Co. They are doing very well because they have top football players. They are playing in the top teams you can find in Europe, and it has an effect on the national team. It does. You heard one of the players say that when he entered he got scared. He got scared, and it happens if you are playing against Egypt and you see Mo Salah, the man that has his name being chanted, at the Anfield. You would pause and look at him.
Like how people did to Ronaldo when they went for the first Black Stars.
Yes, exactly. And some of them even confess to John Boy and Co. They confess that, listen, when Ronaldo you see the guy,
Kaka, they say,
yeah, be careful you don't want to foul him, and put some injury on him because you don't know how the global football community will react. So we need to begin to come back to basics and look at how we put our team together. I heard one of the players, I conclude, one of the players said that he was surprised when he was called because he hasn't even played more than 3 matches for his team. And he was shocked. He himself, even after the match, doesn't think that he qualified.
They're very good people of the Tamale North constituency. Johnny, unfortunately, the Black Stars have succeeded somewhat in dimming my love for soccer. Oh. And because of that, I have not, followed soccer the way I used to for a very long time now. And, I am not the less surprised that it is still in the state that it is in today, especially the national team. When I heard the news yesterday that CK Akono had been sacked, it didn't come to me as a surprise. CK, was a talented footballer. Scored goals when it mattered most, and was one of the schemers that the team had, especially when the going got tough. And he earned our love for the football that he played. Then he transitioned into coaching, became assistant coach, I think. And I really did not understand how he qualified to coach the national team. He has been with the football people. You know, we have that, you know, football people. He's been with them. And it was like, yeah, it was like, for me, I mean, I may be wrong, but it was like some arrangement, you know, some stopgap arrangement until they find a very, you know, an appropriate coach. You are a guy, so just hold the fort. That's the way I saw it. So I never even imagined that he will be in charge of the job this long. You know, I'm being honest with you. When I heard the announcement that he was a coach, I just felt that, you know, the guys who control the game just thought that he should hold the fort until they, you know, got an appropriate coach. So the performance has not surprised me. Yes, it is not just about his abilities also. We have to recognize the fact that we have been living in a fool's paradise for some time now as a nation when it comes to our ability in terms of the national team. I mean, Dennis was right. Our players are not ranked, you know, in the world today. They are not ranked. They are not part of any ranking. You know, so you don't expect any quality, you know, like we used to have with the team. So no matter the talents of a coach, the quality of players actually matter. And I think that clearly CK wasn't the man for the job, in my view, in the first place. And his situation has been made worse by the kind of team that he has had to work with. It is not surprising. But yes, you are right. We need to go back to the basics. We have been deluding ourselves for a very long time now that we are a football nation and that we are a force to reckon with when it comes to soccer on the continent. It's a delusion. We look, many nations have gone past us today, and we are living in past glory. We need to recognize that. I mean, when was the last time we lifted any meaningful trophy?
36.
You know, any meaningful trophy. When was the last time? And just look at the leagues around the world, the top leagues around the world. How many of our players are playing any serious football there? You know, so we are deluded into thinking that we are still a force to reckon with in Africa. We need to go back to the basics. We need to take Colts football seriously. I have heard the Minister of Sports and some of the officials of GFA talk about the revival of school games.
Right.
Yeah, that is a way to go. I mean, recently I saw in the news a school, I think Tamale Polytechnic, preventing sports students from writing exams, and the reportage suggested that they were admitted in the first place on scholarship because of their sports background. But the school doesn't consider sports that important anymore, and so they had. I mean, these are not things that should happen. We should have a proper scheme in place, even if it's at the sports ministry, to harvest such talents. If people are going to school because of the sports background, they must have the support of the state.
They used to be there. So
to be there, exactly, to enjoy the scholarship and also to train. They shouldn't just be there and just go through the system. The facilities to keep them in school and make them pursue the reason why they are in school should also be made available to them. So I wish the ministry well, and the schools that will also be taking up the challenge to revive you know, sports in our schools. I wish them
the final
well
one
as well.
for me is how the business people have gotten into our local football. They see a rising star. The next moment, everybody's cheering him up. They don't prepare the person well, and then they go and sell the player. they're looking for quick money.
Yeah,
So we don't allow the players to grow and mature.
That's another valid point. In fact, I know so many people who form teams these days, and the focus is just to export
Make money,
players.
export the
They're
boys.
I mean, you meet people who I have 2 teams in my community, I have 3 teams here, and it's business. I mean, they send money. Maybe they are here in Accra and Kumasi, and they send money for feeding and all that, and they are just nosing around for the least opportunity, to sell a footballer. Yes, so that is also a problem we have to deal with. But I think it's also because our national teams are not doing well.
Okay.
Because you see, when you have the Black Starlets doing well, you have the Satellites doing well, usually the first point that these so-called businessmen will go to will be the Starlets. They will want to expose their players through the Starlets team, through the Satellites team, and then the Meteors, and then later to the national team.
I get it. All right. So you send us your thoughts and comments as well on this particular matter, so we grow it and grow it well. Well, yesterday at the hearing of Reverend Ozubempe's matter, the journalists were assaulted. Our very own here was also heckled. And it's becoming one too many. I found it strange that it happened right at the court premises for a matter that also had been taken there because of a similar thing. And it happened there. It's becoming one too many. Then is journalism a crime?
Johnny, I think the problem rather is with the policing. I think that's what it is. I mean,
policing?
Yeah, this particular issue, that's where we should place it. I think it's about the policing and crowd control and people's management. That's what I think. Okay. I think it is, and I agree with you. It's becoming too many. I think that our frontline police officers should, exhume some professionalism. If a decision is taken that this particular sitting, no journalist will be allowed. Right. I think in a civil society, 2 things should happen. The journalist must understand that in this particular space, the rule is that you cannot come there. It is not mandatory, compulsory, or by law that whatever the cause is, whatever that is going on, the journalist should be having access to it. It is the courts. And if the courts take a decision that in this particular instance, journalists will not be allowed.
But that decision was not taken by the court.
No, I'm just saying, I wasn't there. Right. I mean, maybe you can educate, but I wasn't there. So that I'm just trying to explain how I think the issue should be. Think it should have so if the decision was taken, the first one is that we need to understand that we cannot be here. And then if we have to withdraw, we withdraw. I mean, it happens everywhere. Yeah. Even in most advanced world, you have sometimes in the courts, at the court premise, journalists will be waiting outside. You didn't hear that? Yes, outside the court. And then when people come out, they try to interview them and catch a few words from them. The question is, did they comply? Now, at the point where maybe some refuse to comply and try to get access to the court, how did the police also react? Are they always reacting with brutes and force, trying to push people? I mean, I wasn't there, but I'm just picturing, visualizing. That's how it usually happens in our environment. So we try to have access, and then you have the police maybe forming, a barricade and pushing you. As they push you, they'll be throwing words at you, and all manner of things. That, for me, I think it's uncivilized, and these things shouldn't happen. That is why I am saying that it is not an issue of journalism. We shouldn't always try to make it look like...
But the church members were attacking the journalists.
Exactly. So
right at the court premises.
Why?
Because the journalists were reporting on the issue.
Exactly. And then they were not so happy that the journalists would be covering their
That's right.
apostles. So I want clarity. So is it the courts? Is it officials? Is it the police?
I'm saying that yesterday. So yesterday, like we do every day on every court day, or like we go to Parliament to go and cover the events, the journalists were there, and they started filming, because you can't take your cameras into the courtroom. So you can go into the courtroom, sit down, observe, listen, take notes, quote, and everything else, but you can only film from outside, and that was what they were doing. And then some alleged church people, because they were very spirited in that direction, charged onto the journalists.
So it wasn't the police?
No.
Oh, then
they charged onto the people.
Then this, of course, the reason why the church and their members are in court was already on the basis of violence and aggression. So if they display that at the courts, then obviously it tells you the kind of culture that is there. But I mean, I think it's quite uncivilized. It's old-fashioned, old school. I am expecting that if the police were there, they would have, tried to separate them. I nearly put the fault, the blame on the police. But in this case, if it is citizens attacking citizens, then of course, if the police were there, I'm sure that they had to do what they had to do. But this, for me, is a very important, case in point of a lot of our men of God, some of them, but I think now they are becoming majority, going around the country, misleading people, building a cult around them, and leading them into certain actions that I think are not the best. Because the matter is in court, you would want to be careful to look at it. But I think that if at the court premise, even if I'm not a journalist, and I'm on my own, and I try to access the courts, or I have my cameras, you as another citizen, you have no business, trying to prevent me. You can only raise concerns. There are always officials and state authorities present. You can always raise concerns and say, well, I think it's filming me, I disagree. What do you have to say? Can you intervene? That, for me, I think is how civilized societies, work. But when we begin to attack each other, when we begin to enforce our own rights in our own way, then we would have very chaotic environment. And I think it's quite unfortunate. Whoever is at fault in issues like this, the law must deal with them. Then people will take cue from them and begin to act right in times like that.
Elijah, you have had occasion to drag a big wig before the Privileges Committee in Parliament, the Honourable Member of Parliament for Asin Central, Kennedy Japan. Parliament would sit on the matter because at the last count, he was not available, he had travelled. Now, the attacks on journalists doing their rightful jobs, and I'm asking you this because you are a journalist yourself, it's becoming one too many. Everybody thinks that, they can attack the journalists, perhaps because the GJA itself would just come and write, we condemn in all certain terms, and said the police would tell us to be calm, they are investigating, and that's it. I've not seen one single case that both the police and the GJA have concluded. What are your own views about the incessant attacks on journalists?
Well, maybe I should have done this earlier when we began. The Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, lost their mother yesterday. She was 81, 2 days shy of her 82nd birthday. And so it's right to ask for the Lord's blessings upon her soul, and to pray that the good Lord will touch the family, the hearts of the family to accept the loss and protect it from any further losses. So my heartful condolences to the Bawumia family.
Yesterday we did it as well, so we broke it here and we sent him well wishes. And,
I accompanied the minority leader to the house to commiserate with him. So on journalists and the attacks on journalists, Johnny, it's funny, but in the newsroom, it was almost as if you were never beaten as a reporter, you had not arrived. I mean, that is how, used to journalists have become to such an unacceptable, behavior of people towards journalists. It has become so acceptable that journalists actually begin to wear being attacked as a badge of honor. And I just think that our society needs to understand the critical role that journalism plays. And the journalists hardly are our enemies. In fact, in most cases, they are our allies. They are our friends. But for them, certain ills in our society will go unnoticed. So they are actually the mirror of the society. Yes, sometimes they will show images that you do not like, but they are simply mirroring, perhaps something you should work at changing if you don't like it. And so I hardly am able to understand the basis upon which, when people get aggrieved, their first, assault is targeted at a journalist. Sometimes it is also, like I said, by people who want to hide, something. But really, how do you correct situations when you hide them away from the public? Sometimes I believe that the sunshine, campaign is the best in dealing with issues that we all want improved in our society. Throw the light on it, let people see what is wrong. And even for you who was lazy at fixing it, you are reminded of the exposure.
Yeah.
And then it gives you a certain energy to get things fixed. So you're right. I mean, I held Mr. Attack, what's the name? Kennedy Ajapong before the Privileges Committee. And it is because it had become one too many. His threats to journalists, in my view, which has even contributed to the killing of one. That's my view. I believe that recklessness led or contributed, even if it was not the sole reason, but I believe it contributed to the killing of Ahmed Swale. So I thought it had become one too many. And that is why I thought that perhaps if someone like that, who has gone before the judiciary and the matter is still undecided, his case, in court, involving the judge.
Right.
It's still in court. It's not resolved. So he attacks the executive. In fact, the president has even been at a receiving end of some of his attacks. He attacks the executives and he gets away with it. He attacks, the judiciary and he gets away with it because the matter is still not decided. Then he attacks, the fourth estate of the realm. And then casualties happen along the line. And he doesn't stop. So I thought that if a person like that perhaps who is a member of, the legislature is put in check, it can serve as a deterrent to other people who think that they can just expose journalists to unnecessary
hold your horses
threats.
there.
Unfortunately for me, I'm happy the way the committee dealt with the matter.
Has the committee concluded?
No, they decided that there was a need for them to have a full house when they are considering the matter.
We'll come to that.
We'll
come to that matter.
A lot of people have been asking me, so I just thought I should take advantage.
I'll give you an opportunity to go on. Let's go on the telephone line. I speak with Mr. Roland Afel-Moni. He is the president of the GJA. Sir, good morning. Thank you very much for your time.
Good morning, Johnny.
I'm sure you've been monitoring what's happening. The one too many attacks on journalists, the recent one being yesterday at the court premises. What do you say from where you sit?
Well, we are overly concerned and utterly shocked about what happened at the court premises yesterday. First of all, let me empathize with our colleagues who were subjected to such brutalities without true no fault of theirs. One would have expected that, the police authority would have anticipated what happened yesterday, and they would have proactively prevented it from happening, because this seems to be the dominant theme of trials of people who offend the law. By the case of Owusu Bempah and his supporters, one doesn't need any superfluity of evidence to conclude that they are in a different world. And until yesterday, or until he was arraigned before court, he felt he was larger than life, and he had enveloped himself in a water of untouchability. But what's been so good, that air of untouchability seems to have been broken, and the law seems to be working we need not reiterate that we are in a dispensation of rule of law, and in such dispensation, anyone or group of persons who willfully find themselves on the wrong side of the law should be made to taste the biting edge of the law. So we expect the police authority, we expect the Law and Order Committee to move swiftly to arrest the perpetrators and deal with them surgically according to law.
I see. I know that. Sorry, I do know that.
To safeguard the safety and security of journalists whenever such high-profile cases happen, because we cannot refuse to cover such events because we have an obligation imposed by virtue of what you do as journalists to bring our people, our consumers up to speed about such development. But we cannot do that. We cannot sacrifice our lives in so doing. But no story is far more important than the life of a journalist. So under no circumstance should we sacrifice our lives on the altar of stories, no matter how juicy those stories are. So we once again appeal to our people to also heighten that sense of security and ensure that they do not fall easy prey to perpetrators of brutalities as we did yesterday.
I know that under your watch, you put together a legal team to help hold the feet of those who attack and abuse journalists to the fire, the legal fire. There's a plethora or a litany of assaults on journalists that came before you. You had to write statements, but you also said you were constituting a legal team to deal with the matters conclusively so that people will be deterred not to follow in this, what we saw yesterday. What is the status of that committee of lawyers that you put together, and have they even been able to deal with just one case of assaults on journalists?
Indeed, our announcement of a legal team was not an empty rhetoric or platitude. In fact, we have indeed constituted a legal team, and the team has been in action in a number of cases, notably Haja Pati versus Sichua of multimedia fame. Our legal team is headed by Samson Ladi Anyanyani, and we pursued that matter to its logical conclusion until Haja Pati was fined. Our legal team also rallied to the defense of two journalists of modern Ghana reports, who were arrested by national security personnel. Eventually, they secured the freedom of the two journalists. The other instances where they've been in action, and this is another case, we refer to them to advise us on the best course of action to address this latest case of impunity.
I hear you. Thank you very much, Mr. Moni. Grateful for your time this morning. That's Rolanda Falmoni, is the GGA president. So let's wrap up on this one. You were telling me,
so the committee decided,
where the matter has traveled.
The committee decided that they will invite myself and Honorable Kennedy Ajapong when the House resumes, because they didn't want to schedule a meeting where they couldn't be sure that members will all be available to attend, because when Parliament is on recess, people travel either to their constituency or out of the country and all of that. So I am happy with that decision that the committee took. Okay. And we are looking forward to Parliament resuming and the full complement of the committee, sitting on this matter and giving direction as to what should happen.
So it's not as if the matter has been abandoned?
No, it hasn't been abandoned at all. And, on the issues, on the issues that Mr. Afromane also spoke to, I think that I am particularly happy that at least for the first time in a long time, our security agencies working with our courts seem to be, showing someone who thinks he's invisible that no one is above the law. I mean, because Reverend Owusu Bempah is the Reverend of the President, for a very long time now, he has carried himself as if he is above the laws
but the IGP,
of this country.
IDP disagrees. Dr. Dampare disagrees, which is why now he's been remanded.
But that's what I'm saying, that I am happy that now it looks like the security agencies together with our courts are acting to show one person who has carried himself about for some time now because he's the president's reverend, that he is above the law. They are beginning to act in a way that gives me confidence that they are committed to ensuring that no one puts himself or herself above the law. So I wish them well. I hope they don't buckle along the line. I think that Reverend Owusu Bempah's day of reckoning has been on the wall for some time now, and it is better late than never.
Okay.
In my view, because one was beginning to think that not under this administration, and he himself actually boasts about it, that over the bar for him to be arrested by the police, because I mean he thinks that he's responsible for Nana Addo becoming president.
Did he say that?
He thinks that.
You are in his mind now.
No, but you can see through his actions.
I hear you, Dennis.
Through his actions.
I think that I'm glad that finally today today is what? On the 14th of September, the president has been vindicated that the assumptions and the mindset that Alhaji and his friends in the NDC had, that somebody just standing in his pulpit and moving around saying words does not necessarily amount to what the reality is. When you step out, in fact, in Alhaji's constituency, there are a lot of young people going up and down based on their closeness and relationship with him. Probably even wooing some girls using his name. That Alhaji is coming on Saturday. Don't worry. When Alhaji comes on Saturday, I'll talk to him. The MPs come on for the scholarship, I'll give it to you. This gentleman probably has never even, spoken with him or had any conversation with Alhaji regards. It happens a lot. But ultimately, when the reality sets in place, we'll know the truth.
Right.
We'll be able to separate the reality from the lies. And clearly, it tells you that the president is vindicated. Nobody is invisible in this country. If you are found foul, with the law, the laws will deal with you. And it doesn't matter who you are, where you sit, who you dine with, or who you speak with. And this is a president that believes in.
Let me just question him that it's too early.
Yeah.
That's why I said I hope they don't buckle.
Early days yet, but yet you were making conclusions.
They don't buckle.
The same
That's
way.
what I said.
Let me.
Yeah, go on.
The same way you were making conclusions, even though they were early days yet.
No.
That same way, we should allow the
process to flow.
Because you knew it was early days yet, and yet you were saying that he was moving around because he was close to somebody, blah blah. But they were early days yet.
Like 4 years, 5 years now.
Okay. So don't tell me then that it's early days yet. There are things happening. Allow them to happen. Don't allow the same assumptions that are proving you wrong to push you into that corner again.
I hear you. Thank you very much. And your messages are coming in thick and fast. Yesterday, the president was at the bar conference. He spoke about tax evasion. Take a listen to him, and then we'll come back to have that conversation.
The outgoing president of the bar, I'm afraid there's no easy way of putting this. You will have to start from getting members of the bar to pay their taxes. The record of lawyers in paying taxes has been historically poor. It is unfortunate, but a most unpleasant fact that members of the professions in our country have not been known to set a good example when it comes to paying taxes. They appear to think that being members of the learned professions put them above complying with everyday civic duties, like paying taxes. It is embarrassing. The lawyers are often at the top of the list of those who flout our tax laws and use their expertise to avoid paying taxes. The Ghana Revenue Authority has told a disturbing story about what it discovered earlier this year when it started working with the Registrar General's Department and the National Identification Authority. It found that there are some 60,000 professionals working in the country who are totally outside the purview of the tax authorities. These professionals are lawyers, they are accountants, they are doctors, they are engineers, they are surveyors, they are architects.
So that's it. President of the Republic yesterday there in Bonga, Asatu Tialaji, the top brass, the learned ones, those who have gone to school and should know better what place taxes must have in our national life, are the ones who are looking sharp to evade taxes. That's what the president said. And nobody fired back because they know it is true.
Yeah, you know, I read an article some time ago. I'm struggling to remember the title of that article, but it basically concluded that Africa's problems come from, you know, the educated, the elites, those who are supposed to know better. I mean, they make the money and they invest, you know, outside Africa and hide the wealth outside Africa. And they broke all the deals that lead to the pollutions and the other problems that we have in the continent. So it is not surprising that you will come even lower from Africa to the national level. And many of our problems, you know, go to our villages. In fact, our people who are not educated, they have come to that conclusion long ago, that the educated ones, we are the problem in this country. You know, we use our exposure and our knowledge to get away with things that they will not even dream or contemplate doing. So the president partly is right, and perhaps that is why there hasn't been any strong rebuttal, except to say that tax avoidance is not a crime. I mean, so if you know how to avoid tax, you know, per the laws governing taxation,
right,
it's not a crime.
No.
And so perhaps it is another reason why they are not minding the president, because he's not accusing them of engaging in crime.
Right.
He's saying they are using their knowledge to avoid paying tax.
When the ordinary man is paying all the tax.
Well, it is unfortunate the ordinary man doesn't have that knowledge to avoid the tax, because by our laws, avoidance is not a crime.
Right.
Evasion is what is a crime.
That is right.
You understand?
Right.
So when you evade tax, then you are acting criminally. You can be charged, you can be prosecuted, and the money is taken from you forcefully. In fact, recently I saw an interesting part of the law that when you owe tax and then I owe you money, in fact, the tax, you know, that the tax collector can write to me to take that money from
source.
From source, you know. So tax evasion is what is wrong, and not tax avoidance. But under normal circumstances, you will expect that because of patriotism, and I'm saying normal circumstances, because of patriotism, you'll expect that people who know better will rather not avoid tax because they will want to contribute to the kitty. They'll provide the general goods and services for all of us to use. But then you look at what may be the disincentive for people to want to act, you know, in such patriotic ways. It is the levels of corruption you see every day. I mean, if you, for example, have the knowledge of how to avoid tax, and you decide not to avoid it, and you pay 1, 2, 3, but you see how it is misapplied by the tax collectors and policymakers, leading to sometimes, you know, us being told that over 12 billion, you know, Ghana cedis a year is wasted after the audit reports are done. I mean, if you have the knowledge to avoid paying, you will avoid paying because you think that the taxes you pay are not put to good use. It is just going to enrich somebody, you know, who doesn't deserve it. Right. And so we don't only have to focus on getting these professionals who are avoiding taxes to pay the taxes, we should also focus on how the taxes are utilized.
Okay.
Let's plug the loopholes. Let's stop the, wastage. Like the rental of expensive aircrafts that leads to bathing in the air and all that. Let's stop all those things. That is how we give assurance to people that the little they pay will be used to provide schools in the deprived communities, so that more lawyers will be produced. It will lead to improvement in health services, and not the wastage that we see sometimes around.
Right. Let's Bella step in with the messages. Then I'll give you opportunity.
All right.
I'll
start off with the first one from Stephen.
You do a forward to do more.
All right. Stephen from Kwabenya says, "Oh, Reverend Owusu Bempah. So did God not reveal to you what was going to befall you, unlike others? It means your time has come. Very sad, because your militia men were sent, you sent to Radio XYZ to eliminate Mugabe Mas. It couldn't save you either. Reports was made to the police, but they never interrogated you under the IGP. Upon Bueno. Sad. All right, good morning, Johnny. Today's the birthday of Deputy General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association, Dr. Titus Bayo. Happy birthday. I wish him the best that life has to offer. May God continue to be his guide and guard. Happy birthday. That's from Derico Sadogrino. Faru from Tamale North says, no wonder Reverend Owusu Bempah is misbehaving in this way. The government has pampered him in a way that he has no respect for anyone. I thank God this is happening now. Walanyo Nakwetia says, the hooliganism and disorderly attitude of some pastors, especially Reverend Owusu Bempah, is becoming untold and unacceptable. The law should take its course rigorously to deter other recalcitrant pastors from such barbaric acts. Sike Akuna is sacked. It is welcoming news and indeed embraceable. Okay, he proved to be the worst coach in the football history of Ghana. Good morning. How can we revive school football and cult soccer when we have traffic system of education? The long and short of it is things are falling apart in our sports sector, and the center cannot hold. Ni ayi inabofu. Good morning, Mr. Johnny. This is Prince Nasara Isahak from Vogu in the northern region. Sike Akuno's sacking is in the right direction, but his poor performance is due to interference in his works. GFA and some politicians have a hand in his poor performance. Mr. President, you want people to pay tax? Are you yourself paying tax? If yes, show us your receipts. My greetings to my MP, Dr. Hamza Adam Kubungu constituency, and to Honorable Suyini in your studio. Good morning, Johnny and your TV3 crew. You're moving the station in the right direction. Caging of Owusu Bempah is in the right direction, but I'm shocked in capital letters. God didn't reveal to him that 2021 he'll be caged. The laws must work. That's Abu Spain from Medina. Hello, Johnny. Good morning to you and your crew. Johnny, we the Heal Ghana trainees and the NAPCO have not been given our stipends for 5 months, while our colleagues in the other modules have been fully paid. Please speak for us. We're suffering. Thanks. That's from Pepe Eastern Region. This is like the second or third time that this message is coming in.
Heal Ghana particularly.
Yeah.
And then the youth in afforestation. But the other ones have been paid. Revenue Ghana, Education Ghana, they have all been paid. Yeah.
I want to see if the police is capable of prosecuting President Akufo-Addo's spiritual leader and the other accomplices. You remember the same Reverend Owusu Bempah and his national security hoodlums accosted a military instructor at a Shaiman, battered him, handcuffed him, bundled him into their V8 and dropped him at Michelle Camp. What happened to them? From Osman Bukurisung in Tamale. I'll just read a few more and we can go.
The same thing.
I want to see if the police escape. Oh, this I've read already. So Prince Henry from Koforidua says, good morning, Johnny. President Akufo-Addo must dissolve the entire GFA top hierarchy because they have also played a role in CK's failure. I feel sad for CK for allowing himself to be used by the top hierarchy of GFA, and he kept mute. Our current GFA is a mess. Good morning, Johnny. I think it's long overdue for this government to be a little bit tolerant. What is the reason behind the transfer of the Jura Medical Superintendent? Walanyo from Pando. And maybe finally, Abbas Amogobo from Offenso says, rule of law has been thrown to the dogs. What happened to the Right to Information Bill? Well, it was passed. President Nana Akufo-Addo does not mean well for Ghanaians. Okay, that's about it. I'll end here.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much. Dennis, the big people are evading taxes. Are avoiding taxes, not evading taxes.
I'll pick from the
end.
I mean, we don't do propaganda with everything. But because you see, I mean, with that same logic, we are wasting so much money on former President John Mahama. Let's stop paying Madam Otaribawa, let's stop paying Felix Ofosu-Kwakye. Let's reduce the security that we are spending money on with John Mahama.
Okay.
Let's reduce the fuel that we are giving him.
Same for President Kufuor.
Yes. Okay. I mean, with that logic. Oh, Alaji. I kept quiet too. My hands were folded.
Let's go ahead. So if you are doing for John Mahama, you do for President Kufuor.
Yes. Okay. So we would strip former President Mahama of all that because we are wasting so much money on him. Okay. So that the taxes, people will be encouraged to pay taxes. Does President
Mahama travel in the same kind of aircraft as Kufuor travel?
Well, but the state spends for him, so we pay for him. So
the same expensive
yes,
plane.
We pay for him. Okay. So we should
same expensive plane.
We pay for him.
No, you are not answering my question.
I mean, he could fly in a much more cheaper, you know, but we pay for him. We pay for his car. We pay for his security.
All right.
We pay for his drivers. We pay for Felix Ofosu-Kwakye. We pay for Mokhtar Bawa. I'm just saying that if you do the analysis that way, you miss the point. Now, how did we get here? We got here because as a state, even to identify who qualifies to pay a tax over the years has been problematic. And this issue came to the fore when we went through the NIA, National Identification Authority registration, syncing with the tax identification number and then the Registrar General. That is when we are coming to the realization of this, that, hey, we actually have X number of lawyers, but when we look at those who are actually paying per the books, this is the number. So there is something that we didn't used to do, but we are doing right, and it's shifting us towards identifying these people and being able to target them for them to be able to pay. I think that is where the focus should be. Let everybody play their part. There are people who are responsible for ensuring that our resources, our taxes are utilized for certain things. And there are repercussions if they do not do that. Let's hold them to that. In that same space, the lawyers have a responsibility as citizens of this country to ensure that they pay their taxes.
Not just lawyers, by the way.
No, I'm just picking on this particular. I'm just picking because you see, lawyers especially, because a lot of times they are the ones who will even be in court to sort of litigate and deal with these issues and make sure that those who are found foul or those who are being unfairly treated within the tax regime, you know, they defend and protect them. So if they themselves are avoiding it, that is quite problematic. And like Alaji said, which I agree, if someone is deliberately, skillfully avoiding tax, all you can do is to appeal to their conscience and sort of prick them for them to do the right things. Because you see, if as I sit here, if Alaji gifts me or if I gift Alaji something when we go out there are laws that say that I should pay taxes.
Gift tax, rent tax.
But what if Alaji and I, we don't declare? You understand? So there are certain things, there are certain civic education, civic responsibilities and duties that are on us, which the lawyers are enjoined to also ensure that they live up to. And I'm very happy the president was very bold to mention this to them right in their faces. And I've read the statement from the outgoing president of the Ghana Bar Association. He also gave a very nice quote from the Bible that is sort of trying to encourage their members to do the
I hear you.
But as we do that, we shouldn't fall for the
somebody just sent me a message that if the president reduces the number of vehicles in his convoy, I'm sure people will be encouraged to pay more taxes.
I mean, like Alaji, if Alaji should use
let's not compare waste to what is legitimate.
If Alaji should use my camera rather than
I mean, nobody complains when the president flies with the presidential jet.
Right.
I won't complain. I won't say the president should use throttle when the presidential jet is there. And I won't say the president should use, commercial flight when the presidential jet is more expensive.
We should reduce the number of drivers that we are paying for.
When you will leave the presidential jet,
we should reduce the number of household domestic staff that we are paying for
$14,000 euros
we should reduce the number of staff.
And then you compare it to salary of
the salary that Felix Ofosu-Kwakye is drawing from the state.
Okay.
It's envy.
By working
you sound very envious and jealous. When it gets to GM, I'm envious. I can show
you are envious of the president.
Nobody complains about the president's salary. Nobody is complaining that the president is traveling to attend AU with the presidential jet.
The former president
what we are complaining about is when we put it aside.
He has too much staff that we could reduce and cut on those staff. And be able to
presidential staff. In fact,
he has too much staff. There's so much waste.
The number of people are
there's so much waste at John Mohammed's office. We are spending so much on it. Yeah. If I tell you that, no. Mohammed's staff are so much. President Kufuor doesn't have that much.
You guys.
If I tell you how much we are paying,
is it not state protocol?
Do you know how much we are paying to keep Felix Ofosu-Kwakye up every month.
Okay. Why are you singling him out?
Because I know very few of the staff. There are a lot of them, but he's the one that I know. I know him and Bauer.
Okay.
You understand?
Really?
And I'm going by his logic. I'm going by his logic.
Is that your argument?
Yes. That if we should cut that's my argument.
To counter the waste that you are doing at the jubilee.
Okay.
If you should cut Felix's salary,
thank
we'll
you.
be able to have people paying taxes. By your logic.
I see.
Yes.
Maybe we should reduce the numbers of presidential staffers.
And reduce the numbers of staffers.
The highest ever in our history.
Anyway,
and then he thinks the counter is to say that
happy
president
you want to save
two staffers.
Thank you very much to Honorable Alhaji Alhassan Suhini. He's a member of Parliament for the Tamale North constituency of the Republic of Ghana. Thank you very much, Alhaji, for coming. Also, Dennis Miracles Abuaje, Honorable, is a former municipal chief executive of the Akuapem North Municipal Assembly. Don't mind them, they are friends.